What's good, YouTube? Today I want to talk about one of, if not the best pieces of fiction I've ever read in my lifetime, and that is Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. This series, this manhwa, is just magnificent. For those of you that don't know this series, I'm just going to give a little short description about it. So essentially there's this manhwa series that the main character is reading, and out of nowhere the entire world starts to change, and the events that are happening in real life are the events that happen in the manhwa. So this character now knows the future of this world, and he knows a lot about the main character of the manhwa. So technically there's two main characters. It is just a great read through and through. This is my first manhwa I've ever read. Honestly, I'm not the type of person that would even read manhwa or read anything. At this point you could call me illiterate because I don't read that much. It's just not my forte. It's not my cup of tea. You know, I prefer watching anime and reacting to anime for you guys. And a huge part of the reason that I don't read series is because I just know that these series are going to get turned into an anime. Like, let's take Solo Leveling for example. Solo Leveling is another big manga, definitely bigger than Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Since the moment I even heard about Solo Leveling and tried to start looking into it, I thought it was an anime. And since I thought it was an anime, I just knew that eventually it was going to get an anime adaptation. And here we are with Solo Leveling trailers and all that sort of stuff. And so I have no reason to read Solo Leveling until after I watch the anime. It's more of I don't want to ruin the series for myself. Before I even watch something like Death Note, I watched the live action Death Note movie. If you've never watched Death Note, that movie is actually pretty good. It was a pretty good movie, and then I watched the anime and I realized just how much better the anime was. It's just the whole point of not wanting to ruin the series for myself. That's why I don't see myself getting into manga, but manhwa is completely different. A lot of manhwa doesn't even have a chance of getting adapted into an anime, and that's kind of been foreign in my mind, manhwa getting adapted into anime. So it's more like, do I want to open up time for myself to read these manhwa and read these other stories? Of course, I was more of one of those closed-minded people. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so excited to start reading. When you don't read things long enough, you kind of like, in your mind, at least in my mind, I kind of like shut it down, like, oh yeah, and watching anime is probably a lot more easier and better, thrilling experience. Boy, was I wrong. Reading through this was honestly comparable, one of the greatest 2 or 3 days of my life. I would even compare it to the moment I binged through One Piece for the first time. Those 2 months were also probably one of the most memorable moments of my life, but it's definitely one of those manhwa that I was just captivated all the way through. I had to like read all of it. And so as I'm scrolling through chapter to chapter, all of a sudden I started at 9 p.m. and now it's 10 a.m. and I was reading for the entire time. Now I want to talk about what I think makes this manhwa, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, so great. First, I want to talk about the constellations in this. The constellations, it's just so hilarious. Like, I didn't think I would be enjoying so much or so many words from characters I don't even get to see in the series. Constantly I'm trying to figure out who the constellations are and which is which. Like, it always says like Prisoner of the Golden Headband. Not only do they have those little titles for themselves, they also are constantly sending out messages for the incantations and protagonists. Like, I found myself reading each and every one of like the constellations messages, and I'm just like wondering what they're gonna say, and like, it's just funny. I feel like it's such a unique thing to this manhwa that the entire thing is pretty much being streamed to gods. Like, this is their content. Another part that I really enjoy about the series is the Dokubi. The Dokubi are these small little furry creatures. Another unique thing for this manhwa. They pretty much are the streamers. If you think of this whole thing as a Twitch stream, right? The main characters and incantations, they're the content. The Dokubi are the streamers, and constellations are the viewers, the watchers, and they comment and donate and all that sort of stuff. The Dokubi, they're always in competition with each other because like, oh, whose stream is pulling the most views, getting the most donos and that type of thing. Like, who has the most consistent watchers. They have their own little thing going on, while the gods have their own thing going on, and the incantations, they have their own thing going on. Now, I also want to talk about the plot of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Story-wise, main characters are put through a series of like bad events called waves, and in each of these waves waves. It's either like different monsters or poisonous gas or different problems with food or something. And I think that's a fun way to set up the plot and world, because there's a lot of different ways you can go with that. I don't feel like I know of too many shows or movies that have like this sort of wave stuff that doesn't just end so quickly. With manhwa, it feels different because they actually have the time, the amount of chapters to more specifically like describe what's going on in the waves and like how the characters are dealing with it. I feel like in an anime, they would most likely skip over a bunch of this and get to the major plot points. And we see this happen with like a lot of anime, right? Like, for example, Tokyo Ghoul. It is, from what I've heard, a really good manga. But in the anime rushed a lot of the final season. Not even just the final season, like seasons before that, after Kaneki was getting tortured, like they just kind of skip over a lot of stuff and then skip forward, which they don't exactly do in the manga. That's because in the manga, they have more time to get to all the smaller plot points. And a lot of that gets lost in non-source content, which is why it's just like it's just a complete fresh breath of air to read manhwa, which has every sort of plot point in its story and doesn't have anything that was lost in translation, that type of thing. I feel like that is probably one of the bigger reasons I enjoyed this so much. Right now, obviously, this is my favorite manhwa. This is the only manhwa I've read. I do eventually want to check out more manhwa, but at the same time, I don't want to read the manhwa that are going to have an anime adaptation. Anyway, I'm now an Omniscient Reader Viewpoint fan. If you want to see me do a more in-depth review on different parts of the show, or maybe even just go over more scenes, do more content on manhwa, be sure to show this video some support. Drop a like, drop a sub. I'll catch you guys in the next one.